His Excellency Prime Minister Ayman, Honorable President of Parliament, Mr. Dames, colleague ministers, honorable members of the Parliament, tourism professionals, honored guests, media representatives, distinguished speakers, Mr. Taleb Rifai, Secretary General of the UNWTO, who is honoring us with his presence today. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Bon dia and bon bini to Aruba. It is my immense pleasure to welcome you all today as part of our island's World Tourism Day Conference. And what a subject, happiness. An eternal and trendy subject at the same time. From the wise King Solomon to many poets and philosophers throughout history, to writers like Ariana Huffington, and to Harvard professors like Robert Waldinger, who has been kind enough to participate in this conference to share his vast knowledge. They've all written about the elusive subject of happiness. What is happiness? What makes each of us happy? What makes our visitors happy? Is the word happiness the correct word? Or is it the word well-being? Maybe thriving? Or what about contentment? I certainly don't have all the answers, but stay tuned as we are about to find out for ourselves from our acclaimed speakers during this conference what it is all about. 2 years ago, we attended the UNWTO's World Tourism Day Conference in Mexico, where the topic was celebrating tourism and the community development. There, I expressed and presented the Happiness Index in the presence of my friend, Mr. Rifai, who is one of the driving forces behind this particular measurement. Upon my return, I decided to make a point of spurring awareness of the importance of measuring tourism, the success of it based on also the Happiness Index. Although happiness is a trendy subject, for Aruba, it has been a household word. Our brand, One Happy Island, has been around with some interruptions for almost 40 years. We own the brand. It's in our DNA. Our visitors have been telling us so also. Even though they first come to Aruba, attracted by the pristine beaches, magnificent blue sea, and superb weather, they return because of the amazing experiences they lived and memories they made on island, and because of the happiness of our own people. And when I talk about visitors, I'm talking about both our cruise and stayover visitors. In fact, during this conference, both ends of the spectrum will be covered. I'm pleased to welcome Ms. Michelle Page, President of the FCCA, who will be focusing on cruising to happiness. Mr. Ivan Berg, Senior Manager of International Planning in the Business Development Department of Southwest Airlines, will be focusing on travel outlook and trends. Our human capital has been and still is a key component of our success. We have to acknowledge that when we create the conditions for individual and community happiness and well-being, our residents and workforce and families will also be more productive and balanced. I believe we can all agree that it is important to measure the success of a country beyond only its economic indicators and to make happiness and well-being an integral part of our national dialogue and intent. World leaders like Robert Kennedy in 1968 eloquently put forth the idea of a broader measure of country success beyond economic indicators. Ex-President Sarkozy of France and ex-Prime Minister Cameron from Great Britain have both introduced initiatives of measures to the well-being of their citizens. The European Union runs a European Quality of Life Survey, and the United Nations commissioned a World Happiness Report. Thus, as the exclusive Caribbean island to measure its happiness index, Aruba encourages nations of all sizes to follow suit and embrace this intangible but indispensable measurement for success. We also encourage prestigious world ranking reports to incorporate small island development states such as our One Happy Island into their studies. I'm extremely honored today to recognize the presence of the Gross National Happiness Commission of Bhutan, represented by Mr. Narbu Wanchuk, because it was Bhutan's king who in 1972 introduced the national happiness philosophy for his country. A great example for the world. Please, an applause. After my return from the UNWTO conference, the first step I took was to include the UNWTO Happiness Index in the national policy of the government as per 2016. This is a big step, and I don't know of any other Caribbean country that has yet included happiness in their national policy. By including happiness on our national agenda, we also place a heavy responsibility on the government and private sector to put action behind our words. To kick off that policy and give life with content to the happiness movement, we have organized this particular Happiness 360 conference. The title says it all. Happiness all around, for our workforce, for our community, and more yet, for our visitors. Although we consistently score very high in terms of the general satisfaction of our visitors, in terms of overall industry performance, we know that we cannot get comfortable and complacent. Today's travelers are the most demanding visitors, and as Aruba, we want to continue to strive to pamper our visitors. We want to remain 2 steps ahead of the competition in a tourism industry that is ever so much vulnerable and dynamic. At the same time, we must value our charm and authenticity and assure the well-being of our residents. As government, our policies and our strategies are key to development. Yes, sustainable development, a word that carries a lot of weight and that has proven to be difficult to achieve globally and also locally. But we must keep striving to reach that important balance for our children and grandchildren. In regards to sustainable development, Parliament recently approved an amendment to a law restricting the growth of all-inclusive development on our island. It was an intensely controversial amendment because indeed it restricted the free enterprise philosophy that Aruba has always adhered to. But Aruba is geographically extremely limited, only 70 square miles of precious land that we have to protect, not only environmentally, but also in its use of economic purposes. And Aruba is almost totally dependent on tourism in its contribution to the national receipts. In fact, as most of you might know, we are the #2 country most dependent on tourism in the world according to the WTTC. And tourism contributes to the direct and indirect employment of our population, subsequently to the well-being of our community. We have to make choices, sometimes hard choices, such as this one, for the sustainability of the tourism sector as our main economic pillar and to the benefit of the greater economy. The essence of the legislation is the economic and human distribution of resources, which also contributes to our happiness index. Another state of affairs that we address today is the rapid growth of the other accommodations, as we call it, apartments, houses, and condos. This growth was mainly fueled due to the influx of affluent and also not so affluent visitors, but also due to the trend of travelers that are inclined to experience the island outside of the traditional hotel property. We want to embrace the sharing economy, but we need to be clever as we do so. Independent sharing of the economy expert is here to explain how we can manage this phenomenon so that it can be an added value to our tourism sector and overall product offering. I'm pleased to announce that Aruba is currently working on formalizing a relationship with Airbnb as one of the first destinations in the Caribbean. A very positive development. In other area that's very close to my heart is the exponential growth in artistic and cultural expressions on the island. I would like to take this opportunity to welcome Mr. Peter DeBrain from UNESCO, who is here on behalf of Director General Madam Bokova of UNESCO. I applaud this development because it makes us richer in our visitors as well. There is an outburst of creativity on the island. Almost every day, you can read about poetry nights, photography events, new local products, new production of local artists, local movie productions, sculptures, and location arts. The government has invested in several museums, has developed a seal of approval for our local products, and has invested in programs and projects to serve as an incentive in the areas of arts and culture, such as the Aruba Art Fair, which will take place this weekend in San Nicolas, and I'm extremely proud of that. Especially the youth of Aruba is getting on board with the creativity, and I personally find that entrepreneurship is booming in the arts and culture area. The more our tourism sector embraces these artistics and cultural expression, the more authenticity we can project, and also we can do vice versa. Our international guests will be able to experience this part of our culture and art tonight during our tour and dinner in San Nicolas. In conclusion, we cannot take anything for granted, and we cannot be comfortable. We must continuously strive to have our Happy Island brand reflect the true reality. We have to collaborate and partner with each other to make our brand stronger. And that's what this conference, Happiness 360, is all about. I hope our local partners will gain a lot of insights throughout this conference and return home and work with a lot of enthusiasm and positive energy, ready to plan, implement, and collaborate towards a strong and happy Aruba. Thank you so much for your attention.